Alright, so we are here to talk about some Final Fantasy VII Remake. Kind of a couple of smaller bits of news, but some important stuff for sure. There probably won't be a whole lot of major news leading up to the launch of the game. It's only a couple of days away at this point, so I can't imagine they'd come out with some big things to talk about regarding the game since it's just about to be here. And kind of along that same line, I'm not really sure what kind of content we can produce over the next couple of days, simply because, unless there's stuff to talk about from Square Enix themselves, we can't really do, speculation type videos, right? The whole game's out there. And actually, in terms of the content I'm going to be making for the game itself, I did a whole video for this, but just kind of reiterate here, actually, I'm not entirely sure what I'll be making. I plan on covering just, anything that I find interesting, hidden things, secrets, bosses, tips, tricks. I mean, who knows exactly? Eventually, there will be a review of the game, of course, but probably not until after I fully beat it, and I don't exactly know when that's going to be. We might actually do some sort of a first impressions type video, maybe if I get a couple hours into the game, a couple chapters in the game, and kind of do some sort of a mini review. That way I can kind of compare and contrast that once I do my full review. Anyways, on to the main part of the video, sort of news roundup. For starters, Preload is available right now on PS4, I think for everybody, since they didn't specify certain regions. And when it came to preload dates, they were all over the place, man, because I've been talking to a lot of people, and some people were able to preload their game on the 2nd and the 3rd, and some people had the 7th and the 8th, which is kind of the normal preload date for the game. So if by chance the last time you checked your preload date on your PS4 is the 7th or the 8th, you might check it again now, because you should be able to preload. Something else I want to talk about is the digital release of the game. A lot of people have been pushing for Square Enix to release the game early digitally, kind of like how they've put the physical copies out there in certain areas early. People getting it in the mail early. And I suppose a lot of people thought it'd be fair, I guess, to release the game digitally, but if you think about it, there's probably vastly more people not playing the game than there are people that are playing it. And don't get me wrong, of course I'd love to be playing the game early right now. I would not be opposed to them doing that. But even if they did drop the game early on the PlayStation Network, you'd still have a ton of people around the world waiting to play it on the 10th, waiting, to pick it up from their local store on the 10th, or still waiting on their version to come in the mail or whatever the case. There'd just be more people playing the game out there and more ways for the game to get spoiled. Anyways, the point of all this is that Square Enix actually put out a statement a couple of days ago regarding them, releasing the game early digitally. And this is from the actual Square Enix website, and it says, "I noticed that some people have received their box copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Why can't we play the digital version now?" And the response is, "While we understand the frustration of seeing the game for sale in some locations, the bulk of our shipment to retailers around the globe are still scheduled to arrive in stores for our April 10th street date. Also, changing the digital release date at this point in time could lead to logistical issues that could disrupt the digital launch for everyone. Therefore, we will be adhering to an April 10th digital release date. Thank you for your understanding." Now, not really a surprising answer. It's actually the answer you sort of expect from them. I understand why they can't do it, the business side of things, investors and stock and all this other stuff. I get that. I don't understand why, if they were to drop the game early digitally, why that would disrupt the launch for everyone. What does that mean? If the people who bought the game digitally on the PlayStation Network were told right now, hey, by the way, you could fully download the game and play it right now, who at all would be complaining? I don't understand. How does that disrupt that for anything? Everybody would be happy. And look, I'm not pissed off at Square Enix for not dropping the game early digitally. I can wait a couple more days. But the thing is, making people wait and have to dodge spoilers and having the game spoiled for them, that's really the major disruption. And the last thing I want to talk about is the game link. This comes from reviews of the game. Now, just to be clear, just to clarify really quickly, this has nothing to do with the copies being out early, people around the world playing the game and shit. We're talking about review copies of the game, IGN and these other people. This is something I would talk about regardless of the current situation of the world. If the coronavirus stuff never happened, I'd still be looking to these articles and talking about the game length and things. And before we hop into it, there are different times for different people here, and your time may vary wildly from these people, right? You might just run through the game and beat it in 10 hours or some shit. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe. And you might take 100 hours to beat it your first time. Maybe you want to do literally everything, explore every corner, look for all the environmental storytelling type shit. Who knows how long it's going to take anybody to complete it. So first up, we have this part of a Push Square article that says, Final Fantasy VII Remake lasts at least 25 hours on a first playthrough, but it's highly likely that most players will spend longer with the game than that. As noted in our Final Fantasy VII Remake PS4 review, on average, Final Fantasy VII Remake takes around 35 to 40 hours to complete. This includes completing all chapters and side quests. I'm not going to read the rest of it. I cut it off right there because it sort of goes into not necessarily spoiler territory, but for one, it's side quest stuff that I was completely unaware of. So I'm assuming Square Enix has never publicly talked about it. So I don't want to read that off just because, we're trying to save some surprises for the damn launch of the game, right? But if you want to seek it out, the article's obviously linked in the description. Next up, we have this section from an IGN article. We're going to look at a couple of these, and it says, by the time the credits rolled, I had sunk 44 hours and 23 minutes into Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's over 10 hours more than some other people on the IGN team, which just goes to show how massive this game is. Square Enix wasn't kidding when it said that this was a full Final Fantasy game. This guy right here, Tom Marks, said that he hit about 33 hours, but still had several hours of stuff he could do afterwards if he wanted to. And then this one right here that says, my first playthrough, which I guess means he's done more than one, of Final Fantasy VII Remake ran about 38 hours. And while it certainly wasn't a completionist run in terms of hitting all the side quests, I definitely wouldn't say that I beelined it to the finish. According to my play log, I completed 20 of 26 side quests, or odd jobs as they're called. Since completing the game, I've put in another 12 or so hours, so that'd equal 50 hours, which is what I talked about earlier. Like, people's times are going to be very, very different depending on how much you're trying to do in the game. And lastly, we had this guy who completed the story in just under 30 hours, but the main thing to take away from this is that he didn't do a lot of side stuff. At about chapter 9, he just focused purely on the story, wasn't even upgrading his weapons, really. And to be clear, I didn't look at a lot of those guys' full breakdowns because they went into spoiler territory talking about side stuff that, again, I'm pretty sure Square Enix has never talked about. It's something I've known of because of the data mining for a while, but something I've never talked about on my channel, and because I'm pretty sure Square Enix has never talked about it either, I'm not going to mention it here. But again, the article will be linked down below if you want to look at it. But the big takeaway from this is it seems like over 30 hours is pretty consistent for most people out there. The downside to that is that seems to be the case for doing everything. Like, a lot of people are finishing the game, like the story, and like a lot of the side content, like the side quests and all like the other things you can do. I almost said them. It seems like in the like mid 30s to like 40-hour range, people are doing everything the game has to offer. And the guy we looked at earlier who did about 50 hours altogether had done everything, including maxing the characters. He'd maxed all the characters in the game, like their levels, I'm assuming level 99, in the matter of 50 hours. That's a problem. And don't get me wrong, game length is not everything. I'd rather a 10-hour masterpiece than a 30-hour slog. But a lot of us were hoping for like 30-ish hours for the story content, and then who knows how many more hours, 10, 15 more hours for the side content. And if you're talking about like maxing all the characters, that's got to take another bunch of hours, you would think. But if you can do literally everything this game has to offer in the span of 50 hours, that seems a bit low, man, especially for how long they've been working on this game. And there's obviously another problem given the current state of the world. A lot of people are home with nothing to do, right? They are forced to be at their house, and they're going to get the game Friday on the 10th, and they might have the game completed entirely before the weekend's over. That's going to be underwhelming as hell, man. And it's not really Square Enix's fault. They weren't planning on people being home playing this video game all day, but that might be the case. I do hope it takes me a long time to beat, man. It doesn't need to be like padded with bullshit things to do that is just filler content, but I hope I'm not like working on my review of the game next week. I hope to be playing this game for a while, man. I hope that's the case. So I'll pass off to you guys. The main question I want to ask you is the game length. What do you think about 30 plus hours being kind of standard, it seems, for doing mostly everything, if not everything? How do you feel about that? Do you think that that is good, bad, in between? Do you not care? Whatever. Either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and want to update more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @dashingdavid, at my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Give me a smile, give me forever for a while, give me forever for a while. Quit acting like a baby, or at least less like a child. Give me serenity, or at least just peace of mind. Give me close.